大家好，我是 Kangyun. Hello everyone, I'm Kangyun, aka Cricket, aka Cloud, and welcome back to Demon Souls, Chang'e's journey through Boletaria. So okay guys, if you haven't been able to guess by now, this is post-commentary, and what you're watching is footage of me doing some cooperation. I thought rather than include my co-op in the walkthrough itself, I would just make a compilation video of a bunch of different footage of me doing co-op. And this is, as you can see by the time length, going to be a longer video. But because co-op is part of Demon Souls, and I did obviously do a bunch of co-op on this playthrough, I did want to include, not all, but a good amount of that footage. And I thought it would be a good way to just sort of have a more casual sort of conversation where I get to talk about some different topics that I don't cover during the walkthrough itself, talk a little bit about myself, my thoughts on different things, comment a bit on what's going on in the video. Right now I'm doing Tower of Latria. I think this is Man-Eater's fight. I haven't actually gone back and watched all of this footage. I won't get ahead of myself here. But yeah, so because co-op's a part of Demon Souls, I thought it appropriate to include footage of me doing it. And I suppose I'll start off by talking about why I guess I'm doing co-op. The main reason why I'm doing this, as you'll see, and I believe the videos that follow, the walkthrough, at least the main proper walkthrough videos, I'm doing this to get my body back so I can manipulate tendency. And you might wonder or think, well, you can just use Stones of Ephemeral Eyes to revive yourself and die to get black tendency, which is what I'm trying to do. And yeah, that's true. I could do that. And it's probably it is a lot faster. But the reasons why I choose to do this instead is, one, it saves on Stones of Ephemeral Eyes, and I personally prefer to reserve those for maybe quote-unquote emergency situations, or just to have some for when I want to do PvP or summon somebody myself, or maybe a friend of mine needs some, I can drop them for them. But two, and I think the main reason really, is I just enjoy doing the online play, the co-op, and, well, you'll see I'm going to hopefully have another, or I will have another video following this one in a similar matter. We're highlighting my PvP sessions with some invasions. But yeah, I enjoy doing co-op, and you have to remember that I played this game back in 2011, 2012, when there was still a decent amount of people that were playing it, and co-op was honestly part of the game for me, and it is part of Demon Souls, like like I keep saying. And I think it's so cool now that we get to do that again, because it's like a new game has just been rejuvenated or rejuvenized, or some sort of word like that. You know, there's life been brought back into it with this remake, and it's so fun for me to be able to play this game again with other people, because the last time I did co-op in this game really was when the original servers went down back in, what was that, 2000, was it 17 or 18? I can't remember exactly. It's, as the recording of this video, it's almost Chinese New Year, actually. It's the 10th of February, 2021. And yeah, so the last time I did co-op was right around that time, so it's been quite a while. I was actually doing co-op with a friend. We were going through the game, trying to get him through the whole game before the servers went down, but unfortunately we weren't able to. And what's funny is actually our last session ended. We were in the swamps of Latria when we got the notice saying that the server was down, and we just disconnected. Fortunately, though, shortly after that, I think within days or a week, a fan server went up. They had reverse engineered the server, and you still are able to use a fan server to connect and play online. I haven't tested it. Oh, we did finish our co-op session together on that server, but I don't. Other than that, I hadn't really been able to get much action. I mean, for one, there just isn't a lot of players playing the original Demon Souls these days. It's a 12-year-old game by now, and it's only on PC and PS3. PS3 mainly, but there is the PC emulation of it. So the fact that I get to now play this again with like a whole new community on a whole new game on a whole new console is really really cool to me, and of course I'm going to take advantage of doing that as much as I can. And I want to, I guess, use the notion of co-op if we're talking about co-op as a means to help somebody. It can also help new players as well, though. And if this is going to be a walkthrough, or if this is part of my walkthrough, I should say, um, I would encourage any new player to not be afraid to do co-op or even try some PvP out. Excuse me while I have some tea. Because doing co-op is not just about helping other players, but you can also, if you're new, you can learn a lot too. Like, it can be a way to go through the level without feeling as much risk, because if you die as a blue phantom, you don't lose anything. I mean, sure, you maybe didn't fulfill your goal of helping the player beat the boss, but if you're new to the level or you're having a hard time with a level, that might be a good way to learn how to go through it, especially if you get summoned by somebody who's more experienced than you. You can learn a few things that way. And you can get souls too. You don't get as many souls as you do going through it yourself, but still, it's sort of a risk-free way of going through a level. And if you do beat the boss, you'll get your body back and can summon yourself or use that to manipulate world tendency, as I'm trying to do. So yeah, I would encourage anybody who's new or struggling or just curious to put their sign down. It's definitely part of the game, and I think it's a lot of fun and part of what makes these games so unique. Here I'm casting Cloak to get the drop on this Mind Flayer here. Yeah, I took him out pretty quickly there. Something else I wanted to talk about is how I don't want to say rules, but how different players approach co-op. When I'm a blue phantom in somebody's game, and is one thing to be, and I should say, by the way, all of these are with random players who I was not in direct communication with at all. I don't think I contacted any of them. Um, which is something that I want to talk about as well, the fact that you can't communicate with players. But I'll get to that in a minute. First, I want to talk about, though, the sort of unwritten rules of co-op or how people approach them, because there's rules to PvP and a lot, or there's not rules, but there's like this code of honor that people try to enforce on other people in PvP, and obviously fight clubs usually adhere to. But in co-op, I think there's maybe it's less clear, but I think there is definitely such a thing as good and maybe subpar or bad cooperation. And what I mean by that is if you summon somebody, and I guess everybody has their own ideas of what they want of the phantom or their helper, but I think the general idea is that you, at least for me, the main goal is to keep the host alive and get them through the level, assuming that's what they're trying to do. Which I would say most players in this game, anyways, are trying to do that. Of course, you do get people who summon you. I haven't had this happen, but there are in the other games, there are people who might summon you for a fight club or summon you trying to stand around and gang spawn, gank, spawn invaders. But that's another topic. As far as being a good cooperator, though, I think it's for me important to. I always like to stay with the host as much as possible to make sure, like, I don't ever get too far ahead of them. I always want to make sure I know where they are. In the case, especially in the case if there's an invader, because usually you want to be able to take on the invader together to increase your chances of defeating them. But along with that, the host might be going down a path that you didn't intend or something, or maybe you're doing something that they didn't want you to do. I don't know. It depends on the level you're doing. Demon Souls maybe is a little bit more straightforward. I don't know. But I can think of some examples where I've summoned phantoms, or I've been in worlds with players who summon another phantom, and like the other blue will just run off away from us and try to solo everything. And sometimes, they can do that, but there's been many times I've experienced it where the person just tries to go and kill all the enemies by themselves and throw caution to the wind, and then ends up dying. Oh, and here you see what I'm doing. I'm using the Jerry Stiletto. I think I upgraded it a little bit. At this point, I think it's maybe +2 or 3. But yeah, it's, as you see, it's a good way to get my MP back with having to save on spice. And I think the Jerry Stiletto is very useful in sessions where you're co-oping, because if you keep co-oping over and over and you're having to use a lot of spice, if you're a mage, the Jerry Stiletto will help you save on that. So I try to remember to do that, because it obviously doesn't do a lot of damage, so you're able to just poke, and get that MP back. But yeah, I think it's smart to stay with the host. You don't want to get too far ahead. And it's totally different if you're in contact with this person and you're on a mic and you're able to, like, I say, okay, I'm going to go here, and they know where you are. But like if you're not in contact with them and you just run off and you get yourself killed, or the host dies, then maybe the host is like, "What the heck? Where were you? I needed help." So that's I think one of my main goals, and I guess also staying alert. It's important, and I've been guilty of cooperating, and like maybe the host is lolling around, so then I get like I start like not paying attention, and then suddenly I'm like, oh wait, where did they go? And then something happens and they die. Um, and I've seen posts on Reddit of people complaining about their phantoms not holding up their end, where they summon them, expecting them to help out, and then like they go into a boss fight, and the phantom like barely does anything or isn't able to help them at all. I don't think I've experienced. Well, actually, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I think if I remember right, there was a funny session I had, and it should be. I think I got it in this video, but when it comes out, I'll point it out. I think it might be towards the end though, so we're in for a while in that regard. But yeah, I think it's you should, as a cooperator, I look at it like I don't want to do everything for the host because it is their game, and like I don't want to take away the experience of them having done anything. At least that's how I look at it. I do know of some players who I've read and seen that when they summon somebody, they expect they expect their phantom to like carry them and do everything for them. And I've had some players summon me who kind of were like that, where they just sort of hung back while I killed everything. And that's fine, I guess, but that's not how I prefer to play. Like, I prefer to take things on as a team, and I would hope that everybody carry their own weight. But I've seen players post stuff on Reddit about like how they went into a boss fight and then they had to attack the boss. Like, well, yeah, you have to attack the boss. Like, well, the phantom made me fight the boss. Like, well, yeah. At least that's how I see it. Yeah, just with that homing soul arrow, just wrecked that man. That man eater, gone so fast. Homing soul arrow, so worth it. If you're ever wondering what spell to get with your first golden or yellow demon soul, definitely go with homing soul arrow if you're a mage on your first playthrough. It will be super powerful. Yeah, we just took that out. That was such a fast fight. Firestorm is more powerful, but in my opinion, Fireball for the first playthrough is just as well. I don't know. People may go either way. I chose to go with Fireball and Homing Soul Arrow. The other spell is Soul Thirst, which is not that useful. I see here I'm dying because I'm trying to get Latry to pure black. Yeah, I don't think Soul Thirst is really that gonna be that useful for a first playthrough. Um, if you're a mage, it's really between Homing Soul Arrow and the yellow Insanity Catalyst. And personally, I think the Homing Soul Arrow was more useful early on because in new game, your magic's gonna be far stronger than it needs to be. Really, if you have the yellow turban or the goofy monk's head wrappings. Here I warp to the ritual path. I'm doing. I think what am I? I'm like level 50 something at this point. I'm doing areas where I'm hoping or assuming I'll get summoned more quickly. And Man-Eaters is a pretty tough boss, so it's pretty common to get summoned there. And same, well, the Old Hero is not a tough boss necessarily, but the Ritual Path is one of the hardest levels in the game, and this is also one of the most popular invasion spots. So if you're in human form, if you've got your body and you're coming here, and you're between the levels of like 40 or 80, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to get invaded at least once. So it's usually a pretty good bet that you'll get summoned pretty quickly here. But getting through here can be tricky, and uh, you may or may not have to take a while to get a successful attempt. And I think I do believe that there's a few unsuccessful attempts in this video. But yeah, the homing soul arrow spell I think is more important or more powerful than what the insanity catalyst would be. Insanity catalyst is good for a second playthrough when you have more MP maybe, and in New Game Plus when the enemies are stronger. But even then, the wooden catalyst is still, there's nothing wrong with the wooden catalyst. And you see again the power of the homing soul arrow taking out that invader. The homing soul arrow, I think, and in general, that was a sticky situation. That the fact that I had cloak there was really, really helpful, because if that Reaper had seen me and shot me with his death finger spell, I would be dead, because I got low magic defense and low HP. But there's definitely some, in my experience, major lag, as there always is in these online games. And we got a God's Wrath that ended that session. I should have known better that he was hiding around the corner. I was hoping to get around there and have my homing soul arrow take him out like the other guy. But there is definitely some lag, and there's some weird like latency thing. I don't know if this is intended or not. If it is intended, I don't like it, and I think it's a bad design choice. But when you spawn into a player's game, I'm not sure if my suspicion is that due to how fast the load times are in the PS5, you can you spawn in a player's game before you're visible on their screen. So that's a problem for several reasons. Mainly, when an invader spawns in your game, if you're near their spawn point, you won't see them immediately, and when they cast a spell, you won't see them cast it. And homing soul arrow, when you cast it as you spawn in, it will be invisible to them when you become visible. And I've died many times going to attack a spawned invader, and just to get hit by an invisible homing soul arrow and immediately die. So I tend to now, if I see anybody that spawns in with any magic gear, give them a wide berth and be ready to dodge, because people seem to be exploiting that, and I've definitely used it here. And I wonder, I don't know if people are necessarily exploiting it. Some people obviously are, but it's easy to forget that they can't see you or know when that you are visible. But I've invaded plenty of players who just stand there and they don't know at all that I'm there, it seems, and then I'm able to get an easy hit or two in. But the same time, it works true. That same thing is true of blue phantoms. So like, if you're an invader and the host summons a blue phantom, you'll get the notification that the blue phantom was summoned, but you don't see them, and suddenly you're getting attacked and you can't see who's attacking you for a few seconds, and then suddenly it's like, oh, you're dead, or So that's really bizarre, and I hope they haven't seemed they patched the game over a month ago. I hope they do bring out another patch because there's quite a few buggy things about the remake. One thing I really don't like is that you can't see players' HP. The numbers when you attack them in PvP, the damage that's done or that they take isn't displayed at all. Like if they're poisoned or plagued or anything, you can't see. You'll see their health slowly going down, but you don't see that number. And when you land an attack, you don't see any numbers. I don't know why. You see it on all the other enemies. I don't know. I think they should patch that. What do you guys think? I guess I'll leave this open for discussion if we're having a casual conversation here. Why not? Why did they take away the ability to see the damage you do to other players? And then on top of that, they patched this, and I don't understand why they patched it, but they made it so that the damage that you do to enemies, the damage displayed is capped at the enemy's max HP, which to me doesn't make sense because if you're trying to test something, looks like this player's casting Firestorm trying to catch this guy. I don't know. I don't like that design decision. It was never in any of the other Souls games or Bloodborne for that matter. So why they decided to do that is really beyond me. But I guess taking this back to what I was talking about in terms of co-op, and as it relates to Demon Souls, I may have mentioned this before, and I know it's been mentioned by others in videos before, but there was an interview with Miyazaki where he talked about the origins of where the idea came from to implement or create the cooperation system in Demon Souls. And I think it started with a story. I'm remembering, I'm paraphrasing here. If you give me a moment to pour some tea. There was a story of Miyazaki being in a sort of traffic jam where the bunch of cars were stuck on a hill and they couldn't get up and everybody was sort of stuck. And in order to get out of the situation, everybody got out of their cars and helped push all the cars up the hill. And they were able to, get out of that and move on with their day, right? And this experience stuck with Miyazaki, and he thought about how those nasty invisible female ghosts. Gotta watch out for them. They won't come outside into the daylight though. But this experience stuck with him, and he thought about how incredible it was that a bunch of people who had never met before, they were complete strangers, got out to help each other, and it really showed I guess we'll say the power or the good of mankind to do good, to help each other despite not knowing one another. And also on top of that, the fact that they didn't learn about each other or get to know each other. They never were able to properly thank one another or talk to each other again because they were strangers and they remain strangers. And that idea was what at least from what I understand, what led him into thinking of the way to implement online co-op in Demon Souls. And it was by design that there was no voice conversation chat allowed in Demon Souls. There was no there was no party chat on the PS3 in general. But essentially you were just cooperating with random strangers, and really it was up to you to get into contact with them through they would appear in your player's met bar on your friends under friends in your PS3 friends log thing, whatever that was called. And I met so many players that way. I met met so many people. It was really cool. It was something unlike I had experienced before. But just as many people I met, I also, helped out and, played with or played against that many more people that I ended up never talking to. So I think that is I don't know, I really like that story, and I like the idea that you know, despite all the odds that this game has that to throw against you, there's that shining light of the blue lights, the blue eye stone that can appear in the darkness and, show you that there's people there that are there to support you and help you. So, I don't know, that means a lot to me, and it's part of what makes Demon Souls so special a game to me, because I've been in my life, around and after or during the time which I was playing Demon Souls and Dark Souls very heavily. I did go through some pretty um, dark moments in my life, and kind of fell to at least for me, a all-time low. And Demon Souls later in my life ended up becoming a sort of metaphor in that when life is really dark and you feel like there's no hope and it's very bleak and dreary, um, there's always going to be a ray of light. There's always some help there that if you wait and if you're patient and you look for it, it will show up and help you. And maybe that's a little bit deeper than um what other players think about of co-op in this game, but to me the attract mode perfectly showcases that. The opening cutscene that you see when you load up the game, it shows the player that's faced against like seemingly insurmountable tasks, and right when you're completely surrounded is when the other blue phantoms show up, like, as if out of nowhere, to say that you're not alone and that we're all fighting the demons together. That means a lot to me. And you see my I triggered the cutscene, and so you can see the homing soul arrows floating there. That's kind of funny. But yeah, I don't know. I like that story, and Demon Souls has meant a lot to me for that reason too, for showing me, like, as in the game, so in life. When things are dark and down, and you might feel like there's no hope, like there. Maybe this seems like a bit naive or optimistic, I guess I try to always be a positive and optimistic person to the best of my abilities, and I'd like to think that there's always, some sort of there's always a guiding light there that if you know where to look, it will show itself to you. And or I should say, that magic just really made short work of old hero there. The magic is so strong. That homing soul arrow, I'm telling you guys, if you've not used that spell, that is definitely one to get. And I mean, I'm showing it. I'm sure you'll see it in my playthrough, but you're seeing it here in co-op, because the bosses do get buffed for every phantom that they have. But even still, that went pretty quickly. Doesn't always work out that way though. But yeah, I think that story about Miyazaki getting stuck and then having strangers help him. I just really like that story. I don't know. What do you think? Have you? What does co-op mean to you in these games? Is cooperation something you enjoy? It's funny because I guess maybe I'll talk a little bit more now about myself in relation to co-op in these games because while I started with Demon Souls, and my first interaction with the online play was co-op because it's they give you the blue eye stone from the beginning of the game basically once you beat the first level. But it's not until you kill a Black Phantom that you get the Black Eye Stone. And I'll be honest, I don't think I quite grasped how that worked. And when I played, now you got to remember, if you've not played the original game had this weird feature where the world tendencies, when you logged into the game, regardless of what the world tendencies were in your game last time you were playing, if you logged off and then logged back in, the world tendencies in all the levels of the game would shift to the server average, which was at times an annoying thing if you were trying to keep things manipulated, but usually things were around neutral or maybe leaning white. And they did have server or world tendency events where maybe Atlas or Bandai in Europe or Sony Japan would make all the worlds pure white or pure black for whatever holiday, which was fun. I don't know that I participated in maybe one or two of those, but what I'm getting at is because of this online world tendency average, if you were trying to play and manipulate the world tendency and not screw that up, obviously you're not gonna play the whole game in one sitting. So you're gonna log off and log back. You're gonna turn it off and come back later. So, what the guide that I was following recommended to play the game in offline mode. So I didn't play online my first playthrough. I can't remember when I did start playing online, but it was definitely not my first playthrough because I'd always go offline so I could not the server average wouldn't change. It wouldn't have that sort of thing. And thankfully in the remake that is no longer a thing, so you can play online without worrying about what the world tendencies in other players' games are. It's yours is just they're all static. They're all gonna stay the same. Um, but yeah, so I played offline, and when I finally started playing online, the first thing I did was I would put my sign down or use summon signs. Really, I don't think I started invading. I didn't quite grasp the invasion and PvP thing because I had gotten invaded, hadn't experienced that. So yeah, my first thing was doing co-op, and that's how I was meeting with other players. I think I did get invaded a few times, and I met a few players who invaded me and that would end up talking to me. I think I'm actually remembering now a guy that I ended up playing the game with like quite a bit. Like we co-opted the game together a bunch. He invaded me while I was farming for Dragonstone. I was farming the bear bugs for Dragonstone for whatever reason. And he invaded me and he like ran all the way down there and he was like, you can just use the Thomas dupe glitch. Why are you farming for Dragonstones? And I had known about the Thomas dupe glitch, but I preferred not to exploit that. But eventually I definitely did, especially when you're wanting to make a bunch of new builds and you want to level up quickly and get weapons made so you can just start PvPing right away. The Thomas dupe glitch was very, very exploitable, but it was also very game breaking because it really it really required you to get the items you wanted, and then once you got at least one of them, you could basically have as many as you wanted because you could just dupe them. But anyways, um, what I'm trying to say though is my experience with Demon Souls was, I think, largely my online experience. I should clarify, was largely co-op based. It wasn't until later, after I had beaten the game twice, and then I got the Red Eye Stone, where I was like, "Oh, what's the Red Eye Stone?" And then I looked it up online, and I saw people who were putting their sign down for duels, and there were fight clubs that were hosted in 4-1, and I was like, "What is this? People are fighting each other?" And that is when it opened up my eyes to a whole nother part of the game that I hadn't even thought about before, where I'm like, where you're fighting other players, and it's like, you know, it was totally, at, at the time it really blew my mind that you could just fight other players in like an organized fight. Like the invasions were one thing where you just like they're just there to try to annoy you and kill you. Yeah, there was an immediate spawn in Invader death. Invader got them right away. But yeah, that was when I started putting my sign down, and I remember finding this a, a fight club group that would always they had a chat. If I don't know if you guys, any of you remember on the PS3, there were those chats, like you could send text messages to each other over the chat, and there was that translucent, or transparent, I should say, menu that would come up, and you could see the background, you could see your game, but you couldn't interact with it, and so you would text them, then you hit the PlayStation button and you go back into the game. So you could like see when you're getting invaded and getting killed while you're in the menu and you can't do anything, and you're like, come on, and it take like several seconds to go back into the game. If any of you remember that, let me know. If any of you played the original and were around for that kind of thing. But that was fun. I met a bunch of people who, they would all gather in this one chat room that was on the PS3. It was like Demon Souls Fight Club or something. I can't remember the name, but there was a handful of players on there that were always there, and there were some that were pretty good, and they were there all the time. And I got my foot wet. I didn't like do it a ton, because right when I started doing that, it was shortly after I was getting into the PvP in Demon Souls that I got Dark Souls, because this was, I think, 2012. I started playing Demon Souls like at the end of 2011, like December, because that's when I got my PS3, right around that time. I got it as a Christmas gift, because it was like right around when the PS3 Slim came out, I think, and they were going on sale. And I had gotten Dark Souls, and so I was getting into playing Dark Souls, and I remember doing the PvP in Dark Souls and how different that was, and I remember distinctly there was quite a divide between fans of Demon Souls that I would play with, that were still playing Demon Souls, that were obviously, and a lot of them would say things like, well, Dark Souls, playing too much Dark Souls is no good for your Demon Souls. Like, even at that point, like, Dark Soul people, there was already like people were taking sides, and I tended to stay more neutral, though. Looking back, I think I did, and I do enjoy Demon Souls more, especially now having played them all so much. Demon Souls is a solid my favorite game of all time. I've said that numerous times. You all know that now. But I was getting into Dark Souls, and it was new, and it was interesting, and there was different, a wider variety of weapons. There was a few new combat mechanics like jump attacks, plunge attacks, all that sort of thing. There was a jump mechanic. It still isn't great, and it's honestly more annoying. And it's honestly nice in Demon Souls that you don't have this random jump come out when you don't want it to. Though there are quite a few annoying things about the Demon Souls combat with the unintentional push and the unintentional roll, and with this new multi-directional roll they have in the remake, it's very easy to roll in the wrong direction. I think that existed in the original though. But yeah, I was getting into Dark Souls and I was enjoying the PvP, and I ended up really enjoying the PvP in Dark Souls to the point where that was more or less the majority of what I did in that game. And I don't know what happened to the host, if they got hit or fell there. But yeah, they died. And as you see here, we're just struggling. We had that one successful old hero kill and a lot of failures. Going through the ritual path is not easy. But yeah, I really got into Dark Souls PvP to the point where I would just make a new build, and I would have friends who would mule. I never muled myself, but they would just drop me all the equipment I wanted for whatever build I was trying to make, and I would get my souls, and then I would level up to the level I wanted, usually 125, and then just, start off from there and go. And I don't know, I never went beyond New Game plus 3 or 4 in Dark Souls, because I would just play the game and get as far as I needed to unlock all the areas to just invade in those areas, or put my sign down and do PvP. I would do it with friends too, of course. But these are at this time, all of the people I played with were people I met online. I didn't know anybody in real life. Well, I did know a few people, but they weren't as into the games as I was, and I never really played with them. I think a few of them played on Xbox, so I wasn't able to. So yeah, the majority of my time playing Dark Souls was spent doing PvP, and I got really into the PvP community and would watch tons of PvP videos, and that whole thing took off. And I think at the time where I was in my life, maybe I was definitely I was definitely a lot less mature, and I think maybe, yeah, here that was me screwing up there, trying to be the hero, and not playing it safe, trying to rush down there and kill those skeletons, and not paying mind to that archer. But I maybe looked. Oh, and here, this is this, I think that last session there was the ending of my recording, and then I just sort of did a little spliced edit there to go right into another. Because you might be wondering, why did I die and then I immediately spawned as a blue? Well, that's me. I didn't just spawn in as a blue after dying. That's me getting summoned. I just edited out the waiting around part, or the video I think ended around there. But yeah, I think I might have viewed co-op as differently than I do now, for sure. And I mostly, my focus was on invading and fighting and killing other players, because for me that was like what was the most challenging in the game. Because it's once you beat the game, I think and I still feel this way in a lot of regards, that fighting another player is going to be more challenging most of the time than what the enemy AI in these games has to offer, because it's an actual human, and if the human opponent is good and they know how to, and you can learn them. If you fight a player enough, you can find out what they like to do, and hopefully you know how to learn how to counter it. But you know, there's lots of things that go into PvP, and of course there's lag, and there's lots of exploitable tactics. There's in Dark Souls, my gosh, the backstabs are just ridiculous in that game. And Demon Souls, they exist too, but I think it's not as bad in Demon Souls. We'll talk more about that in my PvP video that I'm gonna do, the next one. But my main thing I want to say here, though, is that, and leading this conversation then into co-op, is, for me, Dark Souls very much represented. Oh, just got that guy right before he was able to hit me. For me, Dark Souls represented PvP, and that was my thing. I would still go back and play Demon Souls and just play through it to beat the game. And I had multiple characters on New Game Plus 5 or 6, whatever, because I just loved playing Demon Souls, and I co-opted in that game more. And I did meet players in Dark Souls, actually I met a lot of players through invading, who I would then go and help them at times. I think there's a story I have of I've been invaded. I had a low-level build. I was like you would make, a lot of players made these builds. They were just like, you go through the whole game, never level up, and then you could get all your gear maxed out, but you keep the same stats, and you could invade. And they call those twink builds, and it's very easy to invade players who are like brand new and just easily kill them. And it was a good way to get humanity, because you could just kill and invade and kill players so fast. You got humanity. And anyways, I wasn't really into doing co-op that much, though I did do it. But it wasn't until I got a PS4. I had sold my PS3 and sort of stopped playing games for the time being. And then when I got a PS4 and started playing Bloodborne, two people like one of my best friends, had a PS4 and Bloodborne and showed it to me, actually, and was part of why I wanted to get one and play Bloodborne. What I'm trying to say is the fact that I knew people in real life that had the game, and my friend needed help, and like I ended up mastering that game, and me and another friend, my friend Steve and Corbin, we played through all of Bloodborne multiple times. We did all the dungeons. We stayed up so late. I mean, we farmed those dungeons for those max gemstones for I don't know how long. I think I looked at my PS5 like hour game log, and I have like around 1,500 hours in Bloodborne, and lots of that was spent doing co-op. I did do a lot of PvP in that game too, but what I'm trying to say is, I think that's when I really started getting back into doing co-op and enjoying the games in that way. Oh yeah, and that was my bad. Getting a little overconfident, as I said, with that magic, because that magic does so much damage. You feel like, but he took one swing and I was gone. That was bad timing on my part. Yeah, we're not having too much luck here now. getting another kill. But it started with Bloodborne, and then Dark Souls 3 came out, and we did Dark Souls 3 together. and then Dark Souls Remastered, and then I got my friends. Well, I think maybe then it was Dark Souls 2. I convinced them to get Dark Souls 2, and then yeah, it was Dark Souls 2 we got, and we went through that, and then I wanted to play Demon Souls again, and I ended up buying a the newest model, the last model of the PS3, the super slim one. I bought a PS3. I found one for a pretty decent price it didn't have a hard drive, so I bought an external drive I bought a drive to install in it, which ended up being cheaper than the ones that they came with a drive, and I was a little larger, I think. And I never sold my copy of Demon Souls. In fact, I have two. I have the PAL European and the North American version of Demon Souls, and I got that PS3, and that's what I used to then co-op Demon Souls with my friend, the aforementioned friend that my friend Steve. We went through. Oh man, was that Northern Regalia or Soul Branch? Just no luck here, guys. Nasty, yeah. Ritual Path. If you've been playing this, you know the Ritual Path is a brutal area to go through. So don't ever feel bad if you die. If you die here. Because getting off topic, just to talk about this level in particular. This level is, I think, harder in some ways than the Analander archers, because there's just those two archers that you have to deal with. But this level, especially if you're in pure black, you have multiple sections where you're being shot upon by the storm beast if you're not using the thief ring or cloak, and you have a ranged archer and the skeletons and the narrow footing. It's very easy to lose your bearing and roll off. Then you have the gold skeletons to deal with, and then you have the section with the reapers on the narrow ledges with the beams. And then if you have black tendency, you have those 3 black phantoms on the later part. Yeah, this plus if you're playing online and you're human, you're more than likely going to get invaded. This level all around is brutal, but it gives you a ton of souls. So yeah. But anyways, doing co-op was something I did a lot with my friends after I had gotten a PS4, and then when I got that PS3, my friend Steve and I played through all of Demon Souls together, partway on the original server, or the official server, and then partway on the fan-made server. But we also played through Dark Souls on the PS3 because at that time Dark Souls Remaster hadn't come out. We didn't realize it was going to be a thing at that point, so he had never played through. It was funny because Bloodborne was really the game that my friend was what got him into these games. He played Demon Souls and Dark Souls. He played Demon Souls with me very little bit. Like we went through the game together, like we co-opted. It was more so I just basically he summoned me. He brought his monitor over to my apartment, I remember. And he set up his monitor and his PS3 like right next to my TV. And we just co-opted. I basically showed him how to do the dupe glitch. He became super overpowered, and I basically carried him through the whole game. And he didn't really do much at all, and it didn't help him learn the game because I remember when we went through it together again, like years later, on this session I'm just talking about. He didn't remember doing this at all, and he was going through it having played Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, and Dark Souls 2, so it was a lot different for him. And then we went and played Dark Souls, like the original Dark Souls on the PS3, which he had never beat. I think he got to the Asylum Demon and then gave up. Oh, this guy's got black tendency here. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is nasty. If you don't have this strong magic and you're having to melee these guys, yeah, this can be quite a doozy. If you got soul remains, you know how to use soul remains, though. Those are not. I always forget to use them, and I never tend to use them. But soul remains are very useful for this part. And yeah, he got me. That skeleton, man. It's one shots. Um Get a sip of some water here. It's funny to me that everybody who plays these games has a different entry point, or so many of us do. And for me, it was Demon Souls, and a lot of times the first game is gonna be your favorite. And I think for me or my friend Steve, it was Bloodborne. Even though Bloodborne wasn't his first game he played, it was the first one he beat, and I think it's the only game he got a platinum trophy in. And he's playing through. He finally got himself a PS5, and he's playing through the remake now. And I told him, I said, because he has the experience of playing all these other games now, and Demon Souls, it's a punishing game. I think it may be one of the most punishing games, and it can be pretty challenging. But I referred him to my walkthrough, this walkthrough that I'm doing, and I've been giving him tips along the way and helping him out. So he's playing through it now on his own, which I think is pretty cool because it's like he's played it before, but it's almost like he doesn't remember any of it because it's so like different looking in the remake. There's something else I wanted to talk about though, and I do have a video on my channel of me talking about this, but just for the sake of you know having the story in multiple videos, because maybe that I don't know how many people are gonna watch that, but if you do, it's under my channel. It's my first impressions of the remake video where I talk about how I got into Demon Souls. And the story of how I got into Demon Souls, and then for that matter, Souls and FromSoft games in general. Yeah, it does obviously start with me getting a PS3. Sorry, I was pouring some tea. It starts with me getting a PS3, and I lived with a guy who had an Xbox, and he was always playing his Xbox 360, and we would play like Madden or whatever kind of, I think, sports games that he was into playing. And I think I watched him play Skyrim or something like that. And it made me think about, because I grew up with a PS1, a PlayStation. I mean, that was the first console I ever got. And I had a PS2 and played the heck out of that as well, but the PS3 came out and I kind of stopped playing games for that time. I mean, I still played them, but I remember, the PS3 was probably the weakest launch that PlayStation or Sony had. But it was around this time where I decided, oh, well, maybe I should start playing. I'd like to play games again, and I guess does the PS3 have any good games again finally? Or have any, because of its botched launch and all that. I don't know. That's another topic. But I got a PS3. I got, I think, Madden, Uncharted, and Metal Gear Solid 4 because that was like one of the launch titles. I don't know if it was a launch title, but it was one that came out around. It was one that you got to play, and I I actually never got around to playing Metal Gear Solid 4 I kind of didn't want to play it because I wanted to play the other ones first. Because I had never played Metal Gear Solid, despite having played PlayStation games. That just somehow was never a series that I had played or got into. I don't know how, but my friends like it. A lot of people like that game. I'd like to go play it at one day. Anyways, I beat Uncharted, and I platinumed that game within like a matter of a week or two, and thought, well, this game was pretty easy, and honestly didn't. I felt like once I beaten it, I wasn't that interested in going back and playing it again and getting that platinum trophy, because the trophy thing was a new feature to me because that was not on PS2, obviously. So I was like, well, I'd like to get more trophies. Like, let's do some more challenging games. And I think I looked up, I went and I don't know, I just typed in Google or whatever, difficult games to platinum. And the first game that came up was Demon Souls. And I read that it was like a brutal dungeon crawler that was unforgiving and punishing, but also fair. And took you back to the old days of video games where when you died, you went back to the beginning, you lost your souls, or whatever, your points. And I thought, well, this game sounds interesting and intriguing. It's dark themed. I watched like a little trailer, and I think the trailer I watched was like this footage of old King Doran talking and his campy dialogue of, "I am the old king. Darest thou to challenge me?" You know, that dialogue. And I think I might have called the GameStop that day and just called them up and asked, "Do you have a game called Dark Souls?" And the guy on the phone, he goes, You mean the best game ever made, man? Yeah, we got that game. You got to come buy it." And it really, uh, I was taken aback. Like, oh wow, this guy sure seems to think a lot of this game. And I went there. I don't think I went that day, but I remember going there maybe later that week, and I bought it, and it was the same guy at the counter, and he got all excited when he saw that I was buying Demon Souls, and he was like, "Oh man, you are in for one hell of a treat. Like, this game is going to change your life." And I don't know if he said those exact words. Yeah, here the Phantom. I don't know. He didn't must not have seen me or whatever, but he just came right in there. And that's where I don't know what I'm talking about with those homing soul arrows. Like, if did he not see those homing soul arrows or what? But just walked right into them. But yeah, he I'm buying the game and he pulls out his level calculator for like determining what soul levels you can summon. He's like, "I got my level calculator here. I know, so I know who can summon me." And I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude?" Like, I had no idea. Like, it was way over my head because I had read it had a sharp learning curve. Well, I think he even said, he's like, "It's a sharp learning curve, but once you get into it, it's gonna rock your world." And he was right. He was very right. And the first time I played it, I read a little bit about things and I looked up, like, well, I guess Temple Knight was a good class to start with, so I picked Temple Knight. And I think I read a few tips here and there, but I didn't really, I didn't look up too much. And I managed to get through the first part of Boletaria with struggling, but I made it. And then I got to I remember not quite grasping how important it was to toggle between one and two-handed, especially on a on a weapon like the halberd, because the one-handed attack in close corridors, and that's the thing about Demon Souls, is I think more than probably any of the other games, you're pitted into close corner or tight corridors where you don't often have a lot of room to attack, and it feels claustrophobic. You encounter that a lot in this game. And when you attack with the one-handed attack on the halberd, it bounces off the walls. And I remember hating that and thinking, like, wow, this weapon kind of sucks. But if I had only known that you could just two-hand it and then it really is an awesome weapon, the little did I know. And I got to the second level, in the dragon, and I didn't understand. Maybe I don't remember what I did or didn't understand, but I I remember going through the Lord's Path at the time in the original game. These levels didn't have names. They were just referred to by their archstones. So like the Phalanx archstone and going through. Well, I, I think Ostrava actually calls it the Lord's Path, which is where they gets its name, that level. But that with the dragon, I remember dying a bunch to the dragon and then going underneath the bridge and dying to the dogs. And I don't even remember if I even got to the Tower Knight, if I just kept dying and then I was reviving myself with the Stones of Ephemeral Eyes because I wanted to have my full health bar. Because you think, well, yeah, you want your full health bar. But I didn't understand the world tendency thing at all. And then I would run out of grass, so I would have to go buy more or go farm. But I didn't understand farming at the time. I didn't like, not that I didn't understand it, but I didn't realize that I could just go farm. And I just kind of was like, well, this is stupid. I ran out of healing items and I can't get my full health. And I just keep dying and I can't heal myself. Like, and I just thought, like, well, this game is like stupid hard. What am I? I'm not going to, I put it down. Like, I'm not going to play this. But the game stayed in my mind, and I thought about it for maybe, I don't know, a week or two. And because it was a cool game, and I'm like, people are saying it's so good and that it's challenging, but you just have to learn how to play it. Sorry. So I decided, well, maybe I should look up a guide. I didn't want to have to look up a guide, but I had used guides before playing like Final Fantasy and such. So I didn't feel too bad about that. And I looked up a guide, and honestly, the guide that I looked up is similar, but not quite the same. But this walkthrough that I'm making here, this character here, Chang'e, she is kind of based on that original character that I made my first ever playthrough. And what allowed me to play through the game and beat the game was following this guide that basically showed me how to make a hyper mage that was so strong you could just basically range everything. And that's really this game's easy mode. And if you are having a hard time and you want to play through it for your first time, the game is easiest when using ranged attacks and magic, I think, because you can have your bow get really strong, and if you know how to use hyper mode and exploit that, which that's what the guide showed me, was how to exploit hyper mode. I think the guide had me level up my magic and my faith to 99 and my intelligence to 99 or something, and then I didn't touch any other stats. It was ridiculous. It was obviously not based on any sort of like trying to stay in any sort of level range for online play. But I remember I had to have a friend de-level me. Like he had to level up a bunch, and then we de-leveled each other just so I could get back within range of other players to use that build in PvP. Because he was like, "What level are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm like I don't know, like 300 something." And he's like, "What? Why are you so high?" Like, I didn't realize anything about like what the like PvP meta. I don't know anything about that. I just wanted to beat the game. But I did beat the game, and later thought like, well, if I can do it playing with magic, because a lot of what I did was just cheese things from range, like using poison, plague, cloud, and magic to just like destroy everything so fast. I thought, well, I can beat the game like this. How is it actually when you fight it in melee? And then so I decided like let's play as other classes, and I don't remember what exact builds I made. I think I made a strength build, I made a faith build, I made I think I made a dex build. I made a low level build to do some invasions. I ended up one day made a low level build for co-op. Did a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to recreate a lot of these builds in the remake. Which this character is not going to have 99 magic and all that. I may do that, but the thing is there's no duplicate in the remake, so and you can't drop souls, so getting to that high level won't be as easy. But yeah, I think I really I did learn a lot just about the game, even though I cheesed everything, more or less, or just, beat it so quickly using magic. It allowed me to realize that the game was surmountable, but there's multiple different play styles. And I really enjoy that. And I've said this numerous times now, but while Demon Souls has arguably the easiest bosses, I think they're the most interesting bosses, and I like that they're approached in more of a puzzle way, or they have different ways to approach them. Like, you're not locked into only having to fight the boss in one way, just learn its attack patterns and dodge, and that's it. There's a few bosses like that, but for the most part, they're all pretty unique, and they have different ways. Finally, we got we got another successful attempt there. It took a while. But yeah, you can see here, this is more or less why I don't bother including the co-op sessions in these videos, because there hasn't been much waiting around because I'm at a good level range for this spot, or these spots, but there's a lot of, the unsuccessful attempts. That can take a lot of time before you finally, and it just takes a while in general. Like, why this video is quite a bit longer than the other, the main videos in the walkthrough. the the thing I think that's important to remember, though, about Demon Souls is, if you ever feel like you're having a hard time, I guess this can apply to any game, is taking a break and giving time to think about it can do a lot for you, especially if you're struggling on a boss. And I'm definitely guilty of this, where I maybe bang my head on a boss more than I should because I get stubborn and want to beat it. It's important to take breaks and remember that your ability to play well can be impaired, especially if you're tired, or if you're frustrated, or maybe you haven't eaten properly, or whatever the case may be. But beyond that, as far as Demon Souls in particular goes, if you're struggling with an area, what I like about this game is that you can go so many different ways. If you're struggling to go through the Lord's Path, having a hard time, and this is what I didn't realize my first time playing, was that I could have just gone to Stonefang and leveled up my weapons. But I didn't grasp that. Because there's a lot of things, and this is, I think, I think, honestly, it's at once, I enjoy it, but I think it's also something that they, FromSoft and maybe other Japanese developers, they leave a lot of things unexplained, and it's not that like some of the things I feel like maybe should be intuitive, but to assume that it's intuitive for everybody, I think, is maybe a little bit of an oversight. And there are developer messages that explain things in the game, but one thing that I think is not maybe explained, at least not well enough, maybe for new players, is that more often than not, it's more important to level up your weapons than it is your stats early on. Because you can clearly conquer the game, as I've shown on my... I do have footage of me beating Alant, the final boss, with a new game with a priest that I never leveled up, using only the starting gear. The only thing I leveled up was my weapons. And it's more important that you upgrade your weapons early on than it is really getting your stats upgraded. I mean, yeah, it's important to give yourself more health and endurance, but really, I think being able to have more attack damage to take out the enemies more quickly, having stronger offense, will give you more opportunities to survive because you're able to take out the enemies faster. That's not to say it's a bad idea to level up your vitality if you're wanting to play like that. More melee focused builds definitely will want more vitality in general, but I think I'm just looking at this fight here, sorry. Yeah, we took him out. That was a pretty straightforward. Just go right to the boss. Didn't have to go through the level there. But yeah, like if I had known that, if I had known that I could level up my weapon or know where to go to get, good weapons that you can get off of, off the ground from items that you pick up. I think I would have had a lot easier of a time. I mean, if you're playing as a magic build, it's important to know where to go to get things to power up your magic art, which is what I show in this build, or this walkthrough rather. And getting back to what I'm talking about, though, is if you're struggling with an area, go explore somewhere else. Go, if you're making a magic build, it's always good to go to Latria, because there's good stuff for magicians in Latria, but it's also, if you're doing dex focused stuff, go to Shrine of Storms. If you're making a faith build, go to the Valley of Defilement. In general, though, going to Stonefang is good early on because you can upgrade your weapons regardless of what you're going to use, which will help you maybe even just use a temporary weapon to get you through like, say, the Valley of Defilement to get to the Blessed Mace, or to get to the large Sword of Moonlights, or Istarel, whatever it is you want to use, or get to where you can farm the faint stone. And that's, I think, something another thing that people don't grasp. The world tendencies is also a very complex thing, and I've said this before in my walkthrough, and I am planning on doing a guide on it. It's just a matter of getting the footage to put it together and figuring out everything I want to talk about, because I want it to be good. I want it to be all inclusive and have proof of evidence showing about the things I'm talking about and how it affects your world and what it affects and everything, all that stuff. Yeah. So don't ever feel like you're stuck. If you're stuck, um I think there's always some other place to go, and that gets back to doing co-op. If you're struggling with an area, go to another area or put your sign down in the area you're struggling with, so maybe you can learn the area better in somebody else's game. Like you learn it together. Um, that to me is where co-op it can help you and not just other players, but it's like a two-sided thing. And I encourage anybody to use this feature of the game. I have some friends who've played this game or these games, but prefer to play offline. And I think that's fine, but me personally, I feel like these games were meant to be played online, and you are missing out on, to me, like the full experience of the game. You could argue that you don't need to play or co-op to experience it fully, and I am in the camp today, at least, where I always play through these games solo my first time through, just because I want to be able to do things on my own. But there's nothing wrong with summoning players or that kind of thing if it is your first time. I do encourage you to, or would encourage you to, make attempts at doing things yourself. Like, say you've co-op the whole game, doesn't mean you can't go back and do a solo playthrough. Or if you've played one way, like if you've played a mage, like if you say you're watching this guide and you're doing the things that I'm showing to do, I would encourage you then to go play as, a melee focus build where you don't use any magic, because you'll get you'll learn the game that much more, and I think have you'll get better at the game that way. If you enjoy it that much, if it's just something you want to beat and then be done with it, then so be it. That's fine. But to me, there's a lot more to be had with these kinds of games, and why they have so much replayability is because of the RPG aspects in Demon Souls and the Dark Souls trilogy. Um, Bloodborne does too. I think it has the least amount of that. It's more of action focused game, and it does have the arcane and the blood tinge, but for the most part, Bloodborne is got on the whole less options as far as different builds you can make, just because there's less stats. So it's getting pretty close, I think, to the end here. I think I'm just, I don't know. Just checking something. What I was doing there. Maybe deciding where I want to go. Another thing I wanted to say in regards to co-op, though, is they did remove the ability to, for whatever reason, on the PS5, on the remake, you can't look up players you met recently through this game, which is kind of a bummer. So you have to actually search the name of the player. Like, you have to see their name and search them if you want to send them a message. And I think what I'm doing here is I'm going to put my sign outside the man-eater fight so I can just directly get summoned to fight the man-eaters rather than having to go through all of Latria. And that's a good thing too. If you're not wanting to co-op a whole level, which sometimes I enjoy doing that, but sometimes maybe you're just wanting to get your body back and you want to just go right to the boss fight. Yeah, and for whatever reason, there's like the area right in front of the boss, you can't put your sign down. And I'm trying to find how far away. I don't know why they did that. I don't remember if it was like that in the original or not, to be honest. But yeah, you can't look up. You can't easily see the players that you've co-opted with or invaded or whatever, which is kind of a bummer. I think if I'm not mistaken, no, I don't know. I'm not sure, but this might be the last fight. We'll see here. Yeah, okay. This is the fight that I was referring to when I was talking about. Remember how I mentioned earlier about summoning a phantom to do the work for you? I'm not sure what this was, but you'll see here. So he's got 2 phantoms. I'm going in here expecting us to, you know, take him out pretty quick. Now, here's the first one. Now the host ran. I didn't notice this because I was focused on the man-eaters, but wow. I think that was all me. Yeah, because the host, if you notice, ran behind the stairs there, like in the corner, because that's sort of a safe spot where they can't really reach you. Yeah, that first one was really. It really is irritating when they have so little health. Yeah, they both are behind the stairs, like the corner of the stairs there, where you get the moon short sword. I didn't realize where they were, and I'm like, I didn't notice this until I think maybe around this point where I was like, wait, where are the other guys? Like, why? I think I ran way over here thinking that they were around here, and I'm like, where did they go? Like, luckily I'm so strong. But could you imagine if they had just... I'm wondering if they saw how strong I was and were just like, oh, well, let's let this guy... Because they just, like, ran away. Or hid. And... at this point, I still don't know where they are. I think at one point I was thinking, like, Did the game glitch and like I'm just like stuck? I think I might have thought like I was stuck in the Sky's world because there is that weird glitch where you invade somebody and then you can get stuck in their world if you touch the Archstone or something. And I almost died there to them, but I got him. So yeah, you see here, I got summoned and soloed his boss with the boss having fully buffed health from having another Phantom. Yeah, and then they come out like, oh, thank you. You soloed my boss for me. I don't know what that was, but it was kind of funny, I guess. I think that that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's pretty much all that there is here. So what I'm doing here, I'm standing here because when you die, it'll put your souls the last, I think it's like the last 10 or so seconds before when you died, and I don't want my souls to be way back there. So I'm standing here for a good bit to, at least I think that's what I was doing, to stand to like make my souls. Maybe I might have been like texting somebody, I don't know. But my souls will be here because I'm about to jump off the edge, which should, I think it will give Latria pure black. If not, pretty close to it. A lot of people don't like the Man-Eater fight. I don't know. I actually enjoy that fight, despite its bugginess. But yeah, it looks like that's just gonna be all for this one, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please let me know your comments on anything I had to say here. And as always, please leave a thumbs up if you did enjoy the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see all of you guys next time for my PvP video in Chang'e's journey through Boletaria. Take care, everyone. Umbasa.